Hello guys, we are here for the quarterfinals of National Championship. First of all, compliments to achieve this result. And then, I invite you to enjoy this debate, basically, and to do your best. So, if you are ready, I will give the floor to the first speaker of proposition side.
Thank you. My speech will start in. My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. The emissions of carbon dioxide because of vehicles increased of 253% from 2000 to 2023. It is crystal clear we have a problem ongoing, and it's becoming more unbearable day by day because, as it is now, our world has an expiring date on itself, and we're not acting enough to resolve it. Moreover, a statistic on the Book of Facts shows how car accidents have increased by 15% from 2019 in cities. We need to act now. How? The proposition team proposes the motion, which is every municipality should ban circulation of private vehicles in at least 30% of its urban areas. But what do we mean with the municipalities, and why should we do it in the municipalities? Municipalities, it's a city or town that has the authority to appoint a local council and local officials to administer its internal affairs. The local government, it can also be meant as the local government of a city. This is by Collins Dictionary. Therefore, it is the local administration that will do this. But why municipalities again? Because following the lead of the successful model of recycling will make this work on a local level, since it is easier to impose something when you do it in a situation where you have a clear picture of what you're going to do and where you're going to do. The municipalities have the idea of what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. For example, doing it locally, you can choose which urban areas to impose it in, basing it on your knowledge of it, which is something that you cannot do if you did it on a global and state level. And secondly, you can increase this 30% if you know the statistic about the pollution or the security or the efficiency of your town. Therefore, locally and municipally is the right way to do it. Why by 30% though? The data we brought you shows how alarming the environmental crisis is right now, and by doing it of the 30%, we affect it in a real way because we reduce it to 1/3. We reduce these problems that we are exposed to you by 1/3. But what is a ban? A ban is a prohibition, and what we are banning is the prohibition of private vehicles. Private vehicles are machines such as cars or truck or motorcycles that carry people from one place to the other. Lastly, why only in urban areas? Because they are the one more inclined to risks of accidents, or are the ones where the pollution is more elevated. Therefore, the ones that we need to tackle, the ones where we need these things more. Now, how will the proposition team put this in place? How will the proposition team find a solution to the ban of vehicles in towns? Thanks to public transportations, of course. We will make the improvement thanks to the funds of Europe called PNRR, which is a recovery fund that is given yearly to Italy, and most of it is not used by our region. We have money that we are not using, basically, and by doing this, we are taking the money that we already have, so this is not a problem of the proposition team, and we're using it to improve our world. The money on the tickets that we will have the problem of the money on the tickets will be solved because poor people have already some incentives and bonuses from the government to use transportation. But what are the three main reasons this is a good idea? Because it will benefit the environment and health. It will improve the efficiency of municipalities, and it will improve security. The first two will be explained by me, the first speaker, and the third one by the second speaker. But let's move on to the first argumentation, which is the ban will benefit the environment and health. As stated before, the environmental problem is a problem so big we should tackle it radically. One of the main causes of all of this is pollution in the circulation of private vehicles. Indeed, a study demonstrates how a bus for 50 people pollutes 5 times less than 10 cars. And this is the data by Geopop. With our proposal and following our model, public transportation will be funded and promoted after the ban of private vehicles. So, more people will use public transportation, causing a decrease in the pollution. You might ask, but why does this affect health? Let's take, for example, throat cancer. The cause of the second most important cause, biggest cause of throat cancer is indeed air pollution. So, if there's less smog, people's health will improve, benefiting the whole society. Moreover, if people's health improves, on the long run, less money will be spent on public health system. So, the impacts are the betterment of the environment, the betterment of the health, and less money to spend. So, we're doing something. We're doing an investment that will, on the long term, even make us spend less money. But going on with our last argumentation, my last argumentation, that is the ban of the private vehicles in the 30% of urban areas will improve security. Will improve the efficiency in municipalities. Banning the circulation of private vehicles in certain areas, so we will better the way cities function in 2 ways. Firstly, it will drastically decrease traffic, and secondly, it will improve public transportation. But let's go on with our first point, which is it will drastically decrease traffic. Traffic and traffic jams in the most popular areas of the town are a problem and are more likely to happen in the world as it is now, as there will only be as it is now. Instead, in our world, they're less likely to happen because there will be only buses and other public transportation in circulation in this 30% of the town. This results in an overall betterment of citizens' life, as no getting stuck in traffic means that getting late is not going to happen. Therefore, they're going to be able to get to their school, job, and appointments in a faster and more efficient way. Also, the police cars which are going to be able to get to the place of emergency will be way faster, and this will also happen for the ambulances, which is inherently a good thing for the citizens. And with this, we demonstrate how even the police is going to be improved by our model, and also the health again. The second point instead is how it will improve public transportation. Banning private vehicles will inevitably result in everyone switching to public transportation. This means that way more people are going to pay a ticket to be able to use them, increasing the revenues. The thing that also increases revenues is the fact that empty rides will decrease drastically. Empty rides occur when no one is in the bus, but it still has to get to the stop. Increasing revenues means in the long term bettering the transportation. With our model and with our argumentation, we prove to you how, for these reasons, we better the world by far on an environmental level and on an efficiency level. And our third argumentation will prove to you how this is also impact on the security level. Thank you.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, judges. My name is Arianna, and as the first speaker of a opposition team, you can expect 2 things from me. First, some refutations, and then 2 of our 3 arguments. I'd like to begin with the refutations. The proposition side has talked a lot about decreasing traffic and traffic jams, but we believe that as we already have the money to do so, we can invest this money on dealing with this issue without actually banning vehicles. Then I will go on with the refutations also in my framing. In our society, it is unthinkable to ban vehicles because the majority of populations uses them every single day. And side proposition has decided to ignore the needs of a vast part of our society. Why is that? Because there are problems in the status quo, such as pollution. They talk a lot about pollution, and we cannot deny that pollution is a problem, but ultimately in their side of the house they don't solve this problem because the actual impact on the environment is so little, and so the problem would still stand. The only way they would be able to make a difference is by banning the circulation in I don't accept it, is by banning their circulation in much more than 30%. But at what cost would that happen? On their best case scenario, they would have a positive impact on the environment, but a dysfunctioning society that has to move without cars. On their worst case scenario, instead, they would make little to no difference on the environment while still hurting part of the society, which is why we propose a model. In order to still have an impact, even if small, on the environment without harming the population, we think that municipalities should have stricter rules on circulation, like, for example, imposing a 30 km/h speed limit in certain urban areas, which is already happening in the status quo. Therefore, it's something actually applicable without banning the circulation of vehicles. Now, let's see which are our three arguments. The first one is that part of the society would be left with no autonomy. Then it ignores people with special needs, and it is not an efficient method. I would like to go on with the first argumentation, which is part of the society will be left out with no autonomy. Side proposition ignores all the people that live in that at least 30% of urban areas. Yes?
The environment goes so bad that the world ceases to exist. Do you think society will care about being a little bit dysfunction, or it's ceasing to exist?
The issue is not being just a little bit dysfunctional, but like we will prove in our first and second argumentation, it is a lot more dysfunctional. And what's more, society would still have all the sources, all the ways to still tackle the issue, to still deal with the issue. Like I was saying, side proposition ignores all the people that live in at least 30% of urban areas. And so what would all these people do? There are people with jobs, there are people with families and necessities. They need to reach places, and it is their right to choose how to do so. Side proposition ignores all of these. Side proposition puts society members on two different levels. In one level, there are all of the people that live in that minimum 30% and that are left out with no autonomy. On the other level, there is the part of society who still has autonomy. However, they would still encounter disadvantages because they are not free to reach the places in the area on their own. And side proposition takes for granted that either they won't need to reach these places or will be able to use public transportation. Therefore, their negative impacts are that, first of all, their society is dysfunctional, like I previously said many times. It is a society in which someone has more rights than others. The second negative impact is that part of the society is left with no autonomy. Now I would like to move on with the... with the second argumentation, which is... it ignores people with special needs. Let's suppose you are a person with special needs, for example, a pregnant woman or someone in a wheelchair, someone that depends on their car to get around. What would you need to do? You need to get on a bus or call a taxi, and you would ask me what the problem is in this. Well, people with special needs rely on their car to move around comfortably. We all have taken a bus at least once in our lives, and we know that they are not comfortable. They are not a comfortable means of transportation. But to people with disabilities, this creates a serious discomfort, and not everyone has the financial means to call a taxi whenever they need to go somewhere. And it isn't even fair that they should be forced to do so. Side proposition takes for granted that in these at least 30% of urban areas don't only live people that are able to walk or use a bike comfortably. This constriction would inevitably harm people with special needs whose autonomy rely on cars, and it isn't fair to them that their every movement should be a cause of discomfort and be transformed into a problem. Side proposition completely ignores these people that make up a fragile portion of our society and as such should be protected as much as possible. By supporting this model, side proposition takes a part of our society that already struggles and worsen their situation, posing a great limit to their autonomy and excluding them only because they happen to live in one of these 30% urban areas. And they put on their shoulders a problem they shouldn't face. We cannot accept as a fair society for people with special needs to be limited in their autonomy and their right of movement. We cannot accept a society that leaves behind these people and forces them to struggle for something that it is in their right yes.
So are you aware that our part is actually a broadening of the already existing ZTL that already tackles the problems of disabilities and people living in this 30%?
Well, it is not sure that every city would tackle the issue I brought in an efficient way. So actually the problem would still persist, and it is not a problem that we can let happen. Thus, that is why, as I was saying, we proudly stand against the motion. Thank you for hearing me.
So my speech will start in 3, 2, 1, now. Dear judges, do we want to live in a world where the environment is not seen as problem number one, as proposition cannot stand by it? Because what opposition team has done by now is just saying that the environment is not a big of a problem enough to solve it radically. It is common knowledge that the environment is a problem so big that we should tackle it radically. Why? Because if we do not do now, we wouldn't have a dysfunctional society. We wouldn't have a society at all. The problem is so big that we must act now. So, first of all, they didn't even bring another solution to the problem of the environment. We brought to you a solution, they didn't. But most importantly, they see a dysfunctioning society in our proposal, but us do not see that. In fact, our first and second argument have explained to you how the society would have a better health and also would have a more efficient public transportation and transportation in general. In fact, they stated that some part of society would be left out, but that is not the case, because we have explained to you in our second point of our second argument how actually, because more people will start to use public transportation, there will be more money put into public transportation, therefore public transportation will be more efficient, and all of this problem regarding disability will be solved like it has been done in Norway, a country that, no thank you, a country that has our proposal in act. Another example of our proposal, but in a smaller case, is ZTL. We have said that in a POI the response didn't come true, but the ZTL is basically a smaller portion of our proposal. If this is existence, why should our proposal exist in the same way? And also, they also tackled the problem about money, but in our model we tackled also talking about the PNRR. In fact, there are money sent by the European Parliament to all of the nations that tackle the problem of environment, public transportation and transportation. In fact, these funds are given to people that do not have enough money to go on public transportation or to fund transportation in general. And this is still in act. And actually, a problem of the reality is that because right now the public transportation is not used as much as it will be used in our model, this money are not going actually into public transportation. But the moment in which we make our model reality, this money of the PNRR will be put into place. Therefore, they would not give again to the European Parliament, but will be used efficiently, solving all of the problem of public transportation. They also stated that exactly they will have a dysfunctional society. After saying that actually the society will not be dysfunctional, even if what I've just stated is false, still, if the environment goes bad, we wouldn't have a society at all. So even if what I've all stated is false, still, we actually have to care more about the environment than a smaller part of society, because the whole world is more important than a small part of society. But again, we tackle the problem of disability and people with less money with our second argument, and the argument of efficiency, but also the argument of health, and how following our proposal actually the whole health would benefit. In fact, the impacts that has been brought to you till this moment are the better of the environment, the betterment of the health, less money spent, and also a more efficient municipality as a whole. Therefore, how do we respond to all of this? Because it is crystal clear that we will actually improve society as a whole in every single one of its aspects with one single proposal, and that is the proposal of proposition team. Again, I would like to restate how they didn't brought to us a proposal that would actually tackle the problem of environment. One second, because again, the environment is a problem so big that we must tackle it radically. Yes, thank you.
Can you engage with it, please?
Yes, as I stated, it is because it is not radical, it would not tackle the problem of the environment, because the problem of the environment is so big that we must tackle it radically. Even we must reduce the 30% of the circulation of the cars into the urban areas, because as we stated, the first word that were stated by my first speaker is that there were an increase of 253% of pollution caused by private vehicle in only 20 years. The environment is such a problem that we must tackle it radically. Your counter proposal does not tackle the problem radically, therefore it does not even make a small betterment to the problem. So our proposal still stands strong and yours don't. But now, let's go into our last argument. This argument states that a ban would improve society. In fact, right now cities are more dangerous than ever. Incidents between vehicles in rush hours have triplicated in the last decades because the number of cars circulating has triplicated also. Security is a big problem in any city, regardless of its being big or small. Having said that, how does our proposal improve the situation? In our proposal there are, first of all, less cars circulating in areas that have a big probability of incidents because of their being trafficked areas. And these are the same areas that we are tackling through our proposal, because again, because of our proposal, we are stating that we should ban the circulating of cars into those parts of the city, for example, near schools or where there are a lot of traffication, therefore there are a lot number of incidents and there is a lot of pollution. But also, our proposal improved the situation because there is more use of the public transportation, as we stated before. Because the number of incidents is proportional to the number of cars circulating, if we decrease the number of circulating cars in areas at risk, the incidents will also decrease in their number. But what are the benefits of this? Who would benefit from this? The whole society. Why? Because the cities will be more secure. More people will start to walk again in the street without the fear of being run over. In fact, right now, as we stated, it is a clear problem. The problem that the cities are so trafficked, are so dangerous that people do not want even to walk outside. They use car. Why? Because they see cars as being more secure. But actually, there are also incidents if you go with your feet and also with your cars. Incidents are so big because, again, the use of car is a lot, and a lot of use of cars damage the environment. So it is a cycle, a repeating cycle. And to block this cycle, we must use our proposal right now. In fact, as we have stated in our proposal, everyone benefits from it. In their proposal, no one benefits from it, because if we do not tackle the problem of the environment right now radically, the whole society will cease to exist eventually. In fact, what are we proposing to you? We are proposing to you a world where, first of all, we tackle effectively the environmental problem, and they did not do that. Secondly, we improve the health of the population, and in the long run, there will be less money spent on public health system. Third of all, we make transportation more efficient, and first and lastly, we make cities safer. We have explained to you with our argumentation how on our side of the house, society would not be dysfunctional, but actual would be the most functional as it has ever been. On our side of the house, our proposal works so much better than theirs that our society will benefit from it. Every single person on earth will benefit from it. And we have proven to you times and times again during this debate. And for all of this reason, I'm so proud to propose. Thank you.
Just a second so that I can organize my papers and I'll be ready. My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Dear judges, you can expect 2 things from my speech. First, some refutation, then I'll move on to our third substantive argument. Before I move on to refutation, let me remind you our team line and what we stand for. We oppose to the motion at hand because we strongly disagree with the motion. We don't think that the solution proposition side has brought will solve the problem they presented. There are problems in the society, but imposing the proposition they propose, it is not going to solve those problems. Therefore, we propose a model. Let me go on to some refutation. They say that we didn't bring a solution. Once again, we propose a model. In case they didn't understand or you judges didn't understand it, let me bring it and present it to you once again. In order to have an impact, even if small, on the environment and therefore make a difference without harming the population as side proposition will do, we think that municipalities should have stricter rules on circulation. For example, imposing a 30 km/h speed limit in certain urban areas, which will have positive impacts. I will explain it to you later on, which is already happening in the status quo. That proves that on our side of the house, our model is actually applicable in our society. On their side of the house, their model is not applicable on society. Why? Because it creates a dysfunctional society, ultimately hurting society. No. Without a model, we don't ban the circulation of vehicles. They go on talking about the ZTL zones, bringing that as an example. I thank you for bringing this example because you prove that your model doesn't actually solve the problem of pollution. You bring it yourself. You state, did ZTL areas solve the problem of solutions? No, they didn't. And your model wouldn't solve the problem of solutions as well. Because in order to solve the problem, you would need to go way above than 30% of the area. 30% is not enough to make a difference. It is not enough to make an actual difference. We make a little difference, just a second. We make a difference with our model. You make a difference with your model. But if it's only 30%, the difference is not enough to contrast the harm you do on society. Yes, I'll take your PO behind. No, absolutely. I am aware of that, and I will answer you on 2 ways. First thing, if it's only 30%, at least 30%, so if it's only 30%, the impact on the environment won't be enough to contrast the harm it does on society. If it'll be more than 30%, let me give you an example, 50%, it will harm society. It will create a dysfunctional society because you will be leaving out people with special needs. Let me give you another example. Let's say that a person on wheelchair has to get somewhere. They need to take the bus. The bus, you only talk about empty buses. Let's talk about full buses full of people. Let's say that a person on wheelchair has to take that bus. They will be uncomfortable. They won't be comfortable, which means that it will create a dysfunctional society because they won't be able to get where they need to do as fast as they need to do, as comfortable as they need to do. So if it's only if it's more than 30%, it creates a dysfunctional society. If it's only 30%, it doesn't make an actual difference. It makes as much difference as we have as we have in our side of the house with our model. Therefore, we prove that we don't have the negative impacts they have. We only have the positive impacts they have, which proves that we are the winning team. Let me go on. They talk so much about PRR and investing money. We can do it too. We have that money. You said it yourself. We have it as well. We can invest it in public transportation. No, thank you. Therefore, with our model, we would impose a speed limit, reducing incidents, reducing traffic, and we would use more public transportations as well. No, and we would use public transportation more as well because we still have the money to invest in public transportation, making it more efficient. So on our side of the house, people with special needs are not left out. They still have all the needs. They still have all the necessities. Our society is still functional. We have better public transportation as they do. We have the impact on the environment as they do. We don't have the negative impacts they have. Let me go on, no thank you, to their first argumentation that they base all their first argumentation that regards environment on the assumption that by banning cars, the environment is saved and will be saved. Let me tell you, this assumption is wrong. I have already proved it to you with the ZTL example. We have already, okay, ZTL, let me engage with that example as well. In ZTL areas, cars are not banned at all. Not everyone can get inside the ZTL areas, but if you have a special need, you can use your car inside ZTL areas. No, thank you. So that won't happen with their model if they ban every single car, unless they talk about public transportation. And as I've already explained, if you only ban it in 30% in urban areas, not metropolitan cities, but urban areas, the benefits on the environment are not enough to contrast the harms on society, which we have already explained to you. Let me go on, no thank you, to their second argument, which is the improvement and the efficiency of their model. I've already explained that their model is not efficient. It harms the society. It creates a dysfunctional society. Why? I've already explained it. They don't tackle at all the people that live in that 30% or more part of the society, people who won't be able to use their car. They are imposing to that people to not use their car. What are we going to do with that people? If they had to reach some places, are we going to say that they don't have the right to use their car? That is what side proposition is imposing on those people. They say on their second and third argumentation, which are quite similar, that the incidents will be reduced. We would reduce incidents as well with our model and with better public transportation, which once again, we have it, they have it. We have less pollution, they have less pollution, but on our side of the house, we don't have the negative impacts. No, thank you. Let me go on now to our third substantive argument, which is it is not an efficient method. Let me explain you why. First of all, as I've already explained, it creates a dysfunctional society because there is part of the society that cannot move with their cars. They are imposing to those people to not use their cars, which is absolutely not applicable to our society. They're saying, oh yes, they can take the bus. That is not enough of a solution for all the people. That does not tackle all the part of society who may need to take a car. And you cannot impose to those people to not use their car. Because if you want to have an actual impact on the environment, you have to say that 50% of the society in that area cannot use that car. You understand that is not applicable to the status quo, right? And then they don't tackle at all the right to autonomy. In their side of the house, their method is not efficient because they don't solve the problem of pollution. We have proved it to you. They solve part of the problem with safety. They don't solve it all, but we solve it as well thanks to our model. So that is mutually exclusive. It's not only exclusive to them. And they don't tackle the problem with autonomy, which in the end proves that we are the winning team. Thank you so much.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Before moving on with my rebuttal speech, I want to underline a contradiction by the opposition team. First speaker said, 30% is not enough to solve the environmental problem. So what is the answer to that? That we need more. Second speaker says that 30% does not solve the problem. Because again, we do need more, and about needing more, for example, she has said that 50% would hurt society. First, your model does not solve environmental problem at all, because they have not shown us how it would improve the environmental situation, and I'll explain better with my rebuttal. And the same is for the problem with the society. In fact, they said that it would actually improve our society, but it is not true. And I'll prove it with my rebuttal speech that is divided into two main parts. First, about the situations created, and the second, about the models and their impacts. Let's move on to the first one. So the situations that are created by our model. They've said many times that, for example, there would be problems for people who live there and people who have special situations. So firstly, we have to acknowledge the fact that they would be enabled to go out and enter that area in order to live and reach their house, as it happens for ZTL, for limited traffic areas. Why? Because their car plates are registered in the municipalities. So even if, when active, ZTL is a kind of ban because the vehicles cannot go and cannot move, cannot pass in specific hours, people who live there can live and reach their house. Why? Because their car plates are registered in the municipalities. So for example, the ambulances are not included because their car plates are registered in municipalities, and even with limited traffic areas, which is a kind of ban, but just for specific hours, it happens the same way. No, thank you. And also regarding what happens today for specific cases. If a disabled people has to go, for example, to a medical visit in a place that has ZTL, it is he or they are enabled in order to go there. Why? Because there are some exceptions to those rules. Let's think about what happens with ambulance in ZTL, or what happens to ambulance. Every one of us has, no thank you, every one of us has to respect the circulation rules, but they must be respected by everyone. But for example, in specific cases such as the ambulances, they are not included because they have to accomplish a task that is much more important. So they do not respect all of them, and it is the same we're proposing now. But because in some specific situations, so for what concerns people who live there, they will be enabled to pass by those zones. Why? Because it is the same things that happens with limited traffic areas. That is a kind of ban, but just for specific hours. Another point brought forward by the opposition is that there are no incentives that it would hurt our society. First, we have to acknowledge the fact that there is not the need to have an incentive for everyone when these everyone are committing a mistake that hurts our society. Let's think about what has happened to Ilva in Taranto. It was closed because it polluted too much, and there was no need, for example, an incentive to people that, for example, worked there. Why? Because what the government were seeking out after was the good of the most, and in this case was the health and not, for example, people working. But second, there is actually an incentive, and it is about the health for pollution. Again, it regards also their health and their relative ones, as shown, and I'll restate again during my rebuttal speech. And so there is an incentive even for example, people who drive, or so all the stakeholders of this debate. Another point brought about by the proposition was that, and I quote the first speaker, for example, taking a bus, well, it is not sure that every city would tackle the problem, but we are proposing you a world where this problem will be tackled in a more efficient way. In fact, we are bettering the efficiency of the public transportation. So let's start from the problems of today public transportation. What are the problems? Just a second. Money. We are going to invest the PNRR money, and so we do have the money to make these improvements, and the opposition has agreed with us on that. Second, the places for special people, for example, on buses, and we already have them, and the strikes because they could say that, for example, public transportation has some problems regarding strikes, but those strikes why are caused by, for example, the lack of money in the public transportation system. And so, for example, people who run those buses have make strikes, but if we do have the money to improve the efficiency of the public transportation system, there won't be even this problem. Yes?
We better public transportation as well without having to ban private vehicles. Can you engage with it, please?
Yeah, sure. And this is my second point of rebuttal speech. So what are the impacts of our models? Your models implies a sort of speed limit. But why doesn't this solve the problems? First, what are the problems we're talking about today? We're talking about environmental problem and the efficiency of public transportation. Let's talk about environmental problem. The speed limit does not solve the environmental problem because going slower, moving slower with a car does not have any effect on the pollution. You pollute at 30 kilometers per hour as you pollute at 10 or 100 kilometers per hour. So your model doesn't engage with environmental problems. The second problem is about the efficiency. So, for example, no thank you. For example, the accidents. But moving at 30 kilometers per hour does not prevent accidents, because if a car runs over a child that is entering or leaving school, well, I can assure you that it can die, that it can hurt. And so it has nothing to do with safety, because even with a speed limit of 30 kilometers per hour, we're not solving the problem of security. So your model does not solve the problem. I've engaged with them. Let's see what does our model towards the problem. So what are the impacts of our model? Let's talk about environmental part. In fact, it has good impacts for people, the sanitary system, and the municipalities that are the main stakeholders of our debate. Let's talk about people. In fact, we have to start from a premise that emissions are harmful for our health. So let's think about the most, if we take into consideration the most popular places in a city, in a town, for example, schools, gardens, parks, city center. They are the areas at most risks. So if we pollute less in those areas, it would be better for our health. Why? Because first, we would pollute less. In fact, a bus that drives 50 people pollutes five times less than 10 cars that drive 5 people, so we would pollute less. So then there would be less emissions of particulate matters of 2.5 and 10, and this would be better for our respiratory system that compromises, in fact, those emissions compromise average body health. So polluting less in those areas would be better for us. Why? Because there would be less pollution, the air we breathe is better, and our respiratory system won't be affected. There will be also good impacts for the sanitary system because, as shown with the pollution, it improves people's health. How? Again, because it tackles the problem, the causes of the problem. So there will be less people, for example, in hospitals due to the respiratory system due to pollution, and among municipalities because, as I've shown, their model doesn't solve the efficiency problem, while ours does because it improves security and efficiency. So these are the reasons why our model is better than theirs, and we are so proud to propose. Thank you.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Good day, judges. I'm the first speaker of opposition team, and today it would be my honor to go on with refuting what has been said by the other team and to clarify eventual doubts about our team line. So we talk about the environment a lot in this debate, of course, because cars are a problem for the environment, but the other team doesn't take in account that going at a slower pace with the car actually pollutes less because the emissions are less and the components of the auto can better engage with these emissions and can better and can contain them better going at a slower pace. So we actually do something for the environment by imposing a speed limit at 30 kilometers per hour with our model. We actually do something, even if they said we don't. And also, no, thank you. It is proven because we have diverse types of euros in the cars, and and this is why we prove it, because we have this in the status quo. We have this in the status quo. No, thank you. And that is proven because we have different type of cars that are less polluting, and we can prove this thanks to this. And also, we said that your model would cause a dysfunctional society because public transportation are not the solution that can tackle every problem for these people that needs to go where they need to go when they need to go. They shouldn't be subjected to programming their daily life to a system of transportation that is not sure to be there on the hour it's supposed to be there. That maybe won't even be empty, as you say. We would still have the problem we have now, even if we invest funds. We won't tackle the problem completely. We can't tackle the problem completely, and so we will have a part of the population that won't be able to move freely. We'll lose their right to move as they want and when they want. They will lose it because we can't guarantee a transportation efficient for everyone. We can't guarantee that. We can't be sure to guarantee that. Yes, thank you.
Are you aware of the fact that they proved you how in our model we're tackling the problem of special situations and people moving from a place to another?
You have told us so, but we firmly believe that your model will be the cause of this functional society that keeps people from moving where they want, when they want, and that will not be actually effective because we too help tackle the problem of pollution, yes, in a less impactful way, but also because if your model proposes at least a 30%, no thank you, if your model proposes at least a 30% of urban areas in which vehicles cannot circulate, cannot pass, you won't be able to make enough of a difference, and we too can make this difference by imposing the speed limit, and also by, no thank you, and by giving more urban areas in which vehicles cannot go, you will worsen people's condition because you will live in a society that gives people privileges that others don't have. You will give some people the privilege to move as they want, to have their cars, to be able to do as they want, and you would give some people the need, no thank you, you would give some people the need to struggle to get to work or to go around as they want. For example, if I need to get to a point C from a point A, and in between we have a point B which is in an area that vehicles cannot circulate to, I will need to take a longer way. I will need to take the longer way, and this will actually worsen the pollution, and it will actually cause a disruption in the no thank you. It will cause a disruption in the people's program because they will need to take longer rides. They will need to plan accordingly, and you also would take away their autonomy because people in our society, it's unthinkable to take away 50% of cars, for example, from the population. And also, people, no thank you, people that struggle with special needs would not be guaranteed to have a seat on the bus because you can't guarantee it. You can't be sure that their seats, their design seats, would be left free. You can guarantee that.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you aware of the fact that we are investing more money in order to solve even those problems? So ours is an investment.
I am aware of that, and I am aware that also we have the same money and we can invest the same money without disrupting people's lives, and and by doing so we will still we would not have this dysfunctional society in which people can circulate how they want, in which people that struggle with special need will be excluded and be put in an even more difficult position because of this, because they rely on their cars to get around, even not in areas in which the bus, no thank you, in areas in which the bus can't arrive. Maybe they need their cars to go in those areas. They need their cars to move and rely on them. They need to be able to have their autonomy and be free to have this autonomy. You said that the environment is not seen as the first problem in our society. Well, I say to you, the environment is an important problem for sure, but banning cars in urban areas is not the only way to help tackle this problem, and it's not an effective one because it disrupts people's lives and it creates a dysfunctional societies in which some are privileged and some are not, and some are excluded, and some cannot circulate how they want, and some won't be able to get to their jobs, won't be able to. Also, the example of the ambulance that you made before, well, the ambulance is a public transportation, so of course we never said that the ambulance won't be able to pass in those areas that you would ban cars from, because the ambulance is a public transportation and it's an emergency situation, and so it would be able to pass around. We firmly believe that proposing a model in which you ban cars for at least 30% of urban areas is a way to disrupt people's lives and create a society that privileges some over others. Thank you for listening.
I thank the speaker for her fine speech, and now let's move on to the reply speeches, starting by the opposition side.
Before I start my speech, I would like to thank Team Proposition for this debate. It has been an incredible debate, extremely interesting and educational. Thank you. My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Dear judges, as my final speech, you can expect two things from my speech, pardon the repetition, which are first some clash points that I have identified during the course of the debate, and finally, some weighing. I will compare our world to their world, and I will show you why our world is ultimately the best one with the better impacts. Let's move on to the first clash point that I have identified, which are the impacts on the environment. They sustain that their model would solve the pollution problem, saving the world. We say that it won't be effective, and that won't be the case. Why? Two scenarios. They impose a ban on 30% of urban areas. The impact on the environment is not that big. It won't solve the problem. And they bring an ZTL example areas proves our point because they have not solved the problems. Another scenario, they impose such ban on more than 30% of the areas. They have an impact on the environment, but at society's cost. They sustain that people who live in the area will be able to move inside the area, but they go against the motion because it states ban the circulation of private vehicles. Those are still private vehicles. And even if we buy it, then once again, they won't have an actual impact. In their world, there is not an actual impact on the environment because then people would still be using cars. On our world, on our side of the house and in our world, instead, we have an actual impact on the environment. Why? Because we reduce pollution by imposing stricter rules in cities. For example, a speed limit of 30 kilometers per hour, which has proved in the status quo that it reduces pollution. How it reduces pollution? By going slower, you pollute less. Therefore, we have the same positive impacts because we have an impact on the environment, but we don't have their negative impacts. The second point of clash that I have identified are the impacts on society. They sustain that it helps society because it betters life condition, it betters transportations, and therefore makes a better society. We sustain that on their side of the world, they have better transportation, but it is not mutually exclusive. We have better transportation as well, which in the end better society, but at the same time, on our side of the world, on our side of the house, we still give people the autonomy to choose how they want to move. We still give people the opportunity to move by car. Still, we have better transportation as well as they do. So we have better transportation. We have the possibility of choice. They only have better transportation, and they impose a ban, ultimately proving our point. Let me go on with some weighing and with some comparative. In their best case scenario, they have positive impacts on the environment, but a dysfunctioning society that doesn't work and that excludes a part of society with special needs and the part of society that lives inside that area and that has to move without cars. On their worst case scenario, instead, they make little to no difference on the environment while still hurting that part of society that we as team opposition have characterized for you. Instead, on our best case scenario, we improve the situation with pollution thanks to stricter rules, and still we don't hurt society because, why? Because we protect them. We don't impose laws. We don't impose and oblige them to not use their car, which in the end brings us to the verdict. Our world has more benefits than their world. Our world has more positive impacts than their worlds, which in the end proves that our world is better. Thank you.
Proposition, my speech that will end this interesting debate.
My speech will start now. At the end of this debate, we have two clearly really different worlds, as our two models explain to you. Let's see our debate from a higher point of view, and therefore let's see again what the two models are and what the implications of the models are. In the proposition team world, the model proposed is structured and efficient, as we propose the model where 30% of the urban areas will only be populated by the public transportations. Why is it structured and efficient? Because we give you reasons why will this work, and it is funds, and we give you an example of how locally it would work, giving you the example of recycling. And we also gave you the impacts of this, the real impacts of this on three levels: environmental, security, and efficiency. What is the model and the world that the opposition team proposes instead? First of all, the models wasn't explained thoroughly by explaining the funds and how it will do it, etc. On all the municipalities again. And moreover, even if it was exposed well, it's a model that we explained to you how it doesn't work well, because it was already tried in some cities like Bologna, and it brought negative effects like the efficiency one explained by the third speaker. Therefore, your model doesn't, at the end of this debate, doesn't resolve the environmental problem, but in fact kills our world because it doesn't act well on it, and it's not efficient because it increases traffic instead of reducing it. So these are the two worlds that we have seen. But let's see point by point the clashes of this debate. We have had the very strong clash of people with disabilities and people living in the urban areas tackled. The proposition team brought you a model where there are zones with these restrictions, but also said that we will act in those areas like in the ZTL, areas that already solve the problems of the people living there and the people with disability. Therefore, we are careful to these people and we act about it, so there's no problem in our world. In their world, equally, there's no problem with these people. Therefore, we both agree on this thing. There's no problem in this. What about the efficiency efficiency though? In our world, we better traffic, and this has effects. The first effect is that people are able to move faster in cities. The second one is that police and ambulance work better, and therefore health and security safety works better. Moreover, we resolve the strike problems. Therefore, our world is more efficient, and so it is kind of ironic how they repeatedly said that our world is drastic and a world that has crises and problems. Their world instead not only doesn't tackle the problem of efficiency, but even worsens it, as the real life example of Bologna can underline, because it causes even more traffic and even more impact. So actually the problematic world is theirs. About the environment and their solution, both teams talked about the environment. What is the difference? That we solve the problem, they act about it, but they do not solve the problem. How? Because our team has a radical and efficient solution that actually reduces so much the emissions. And we brought to you the data about the bus, because a bus for 50 people pollutes 5 times less than 10 cars. Instead, their model, yes, tackles the environment problem, but doesn't do it enough, doesn't actually resolve the problem, because it doesn't have a big impact. And even the second speaker said that even if we have a smaller impact, they said that they have a smaller impact. Also, they worsen traffic, as the third speaker has said. Therefore, they worsen the environment instead of solving the problem, even in their model. And so also this is tackled by us. Whereas the two worlds that we live in, therefore. In our world, we tackle the environmental efficiency, security, and disabled people problem, and we spend less money. So we save the world, even because we saved the environment. In their world, instead, we have the security and disabled and a little bit of the environmental situation, but it is not enough, it is not efficient, and they do not save the world. We are living in a better world, and this is why we need to win. Thank you.
Thank you, Arianna. I declare that this debate is over, and I invite strongly those present to make an applause.